I'm Siler Souters, and you're watching Clean Skies News. Yesterday, EPA finalized its ruling on the Renewable Fuels Standard. This is a very complex decision with a great deal of details, both politically and also practically for the renewable fuels industry. Joining us now to sort some of these out is Tom Buis. He is CEO of Growth Energy and also former president of the National Farmers Union. Tom, it's great to have you with us on such a big day, I know, as we're getting through all of this. As you said, this is a very thick decision in terms of the amount of paper issued on that. Let's dive in, first of all, with what Lisa Jackson said about the carbon impacts of corn-based ethanol. This seems to be the headline here, that in her words, they are less than we thought.
She did. She made a very strong statement that corn ethanol now qualifies as a low-carbon fuel standard in the eyes of the Environmental Protection Agency for the new RFS2 rule. And that's very significant because there's been this debate about indirect land use for the past couple of years, what the impact is and how you really measure it. You know, there's no scientific consensus out there that A, it's happening, and B, to what extent, and who do you blame for it? You know, land use changes in other countries occur for a variety of reasons, for domestic consumption, for export, and we have long felt that making an indirect land use change penalty only attributable to ethanol and biodiesel, the science doesn't support it.
And well, is this enough, Tom, to satiate the critics on Capitol Hill? House Ag Committee Chairman Colin Peterson is still talking about his legislation to stop the EPA from this. But Jackson did say that one of the new details that has emerged from this is that the number of countries that are used to assess indirect land use impacts has increased, and thereby the bar has been lowered to some degree.
Yeah, and I'll give Administrator Jackson a lot of credit for at least updating their modeling, updating to more accurate yield data on our production, more accurate acreage, and expanding the scope of the impact on foreign countries. But what we don't agree with is any type of indirect land use penalty at this time because there's no consensus. Even she said last year during the debate in the House, Senate Appropriations legislation that the uncertainty is there. What they did yesterday, though, is they made a good decision, in my opinion, to say corn ethanol is definitely a low-carbon fuel standard. But if you get rid of the indirect land use penalty that can't be proven, we're actually an advanced biofuel. Our modern plants produce 57% less greenhouse gases than gasoline, which is what you're compared to. And that's important because you have to be at 50% to qualify for the full 36 billion gallons. We have all the productivity in American agriculture. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the Department of Agriculture estimated this corn crop this year is an all-time record in terms of volume, in terms of yield per acre, on 7 million less acres than the previous record. So,
well, if now, though, Tom, the gates are open, so to speak, for corn-based ethanol to clear this indirect land use issue, what about the realities of producing enough to reach the mandate, especially in 2022, in terms of the policies that are in place, but also the infrastructure to actually crank this many gallons out?
Sure, and that's some of the challenges, is the infrastructure, the barriers, the distribution system, getting it to the consumer at the pump, and getting the vehicles out there that can utilize more ethanol in the blend. But I think the key thing on can we produce it? Yes. In fact, it's going to take a combination of efforts. It's going to take first generation ethanol like corn-based ethanol, cellulosic ethanol, and I think the statement yesterday by both Lisa Jackson and Tom Vilsack sent some market signals of certainty. We're not going to back off again. We're not going to go to sleep because oil prices are less than what they were a couple of years ago. We're going to continue to move forward. And in the marketplace, to send that signal to anyone who wants to develop a cellulosic commercial facility, that's important. We know we can do it. It's just make sure the public policy corresponds so it unleashes the entrepreneurial spirit in America and you let the technological changes help the efficiencies, we'll be there.
Tom, final question for you. You spent time as a senior policy advisor to Tom Daschle when he was the majority leader of the Senate. And you mentioned Tom Vilsack, Ag Secretary, who's an Iowan, and former Ag Secretary Mike Johans is a Nebraskan. Is this always going to be a geographic issue? Absolutely. In terms of the political realities on the Hill?
Absolutely not. It began in the Midwest, and you know, corn ethanol is very prominent in the Midwest. That's where most of the plants are. We're starting to see that new plants come outside of the Corn Belt, and there's a whole host of opportunities in cellulosic ethanol. In fact, we have a member of our organization that is going to start commercial production of cellulosic ethanol made from farm waste, corn cobs, here in the very near future. So the future's bright. This is a 50-state solution. You can produce energy from a variety of feedstocks. And I think, as Secretary Vilsack accurately pointed out yesterday, the feedstocks will apply and can be utilized in all regions of the country.
All right, Tom Buis is CEO of Growth Energy, and clearly an industry that has a great deal at stake from the Renewable Fuels Standard. And Tom, thanks again for being with us today.
It's great to be here.
And it's good to have you with us as well. I'm Tyler Suiters, and you're watching Clean Skies News.